Have you ever had one of those moments where it feels like you've awakened from a dream and realized you've been operating mindlessly? Maybe you've driven your car to work or to church, but you don't remember getting there. Perhaps you've been making dinner and realized you forgot to eat all day. Have you ever experienced that? No? Me neither. If you had, then it might be easy to imagine going longer than just a few minutes or hours without being fully present. What if we allowed entire years to pass, going through the motions of a prescribed existence? What if we accepted the rules and expectations passed down to us like a baton in a relay race that has lasted for eons? Our life's milestones whizzing past faster and faster until they become a blur. Childhood, coming of age, work, marriage, relationships, children, career, first kiss, first car, first home, bigger home, loss of a loved one, and on and on. In our story for all ages, Katie brought us Patrick McDonald's The Gift of Nothing, about Mooch the cat and Earl of the dog. That story is dear to me because in my distracted, frenetic existence, it calls me back to my intention. The first time I heard it, I felt the fleeting realization that I was caught up in that cosmic relay race. I remember the time, it was about 10 years ago. I was working long hours at a job I hated so that I could earn money to buy more stuff for a house that was too big, with a car I didn't need, so I could impress people I didn't even like. Meanwhile, the people I did like saw precious little of me. I was too busy running the relay race towards some imagined finish line. When I heard the story about Mooch and Earl that first time, it felt like waking up, if just for a moment. What Mooch seemingly wants most is for Earl to know that he has a friend. He wants to buy him a gift, but he knows that if he gives just another something, it won't be unique or special. Rather than getting caught up in the cultural habit of consumerism, Mooch's intention rings like a clear, sweet bell in the darkness. The gift of nothing, the gift of Mooch's intention. What was my intention? What is my intention? To help figure that out, I did what Unitarians do when faced with life's big questions. No, I didn't call a committee meeting. I did the other thing that we do. I started showing up at First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati during the week for discussion groups and adult RE classes. One of them was called Voluntary Simplicity. It was sponsored by the Earth Institute. In that class, we explored the notion of beginning to strip away the layers of extraneous distraction that so easily consume our lives in order that we might uncover our true life's purpose. During one of those sessions, a longtime member of the church mentioned, "You know, we didn't just now invent this stuff. What do you think Thoreau was doing at Walden Pond?" I will neither confirm nor deny whether I thought I had, in fact, invented voluntary simplicity. But I did take that opportunity to start reading a copy of Thoreau's Walden, Life in the Woods. We started to read people like Emerson and Margaret Fuller, the Transcendentalists. I'd like to bring you this story from the UUA's Tapestry of Faith. It's part of our religious education curriculum. Henry sat in front of his little cabin in one of his 3 chairs, listening to the evening. If you were there, you might have thought there was nothing to listen to. Certainly no TV or iPod. Those wouldn't be around for another 100 years or more. There's no one to talk with. No airplanes overhead, no radio coming from next door. Mr. Emerson's house, the closest thing to a next-door neighbor, was over a mile away. Even the natural world was still. No wind rippled the pond, and the birds had stopped singing as night approached. Still, Henry listened for the tiniest sounds, the small fish breaking the surface of the water and splashing down again. The crackle of leaves as a mouse passed by. The sound of wings as a crow passed overhead. To him, these miniature sounds were music. Of course, most of the townspeople thought Henry David Thoreau was crazy when he decided to build a tiny cabin from used materials out in Emerson's wood. Why would a promising writer want to move away from society to sit with birds and bugs for company? As he watched the last rays of light glisten on the pond, Henry thought about the biblical story about the prophet Elijah who crawled off to a mountain cave to listen for what God wanted him to do. While Elijah stood outside his cave, a great wind whipped around the mountain, sending boulders crashing to the ground in the fury of its passing. But God wasn't in the wind. Then an earthquake rattled the mountain with a terrific rumbling, but God wasn't in that earthquake. Then came a fire sweeping across the rocks and brush outside the cave, red and roaring and grand, but God wasn't in the fire either. Finally, after all the roaring and crashing, everything became quiet. Elijah stood there shaking, wrapped in his cloak, just waiting. And out of the silence came the still, small voice of his God. I'm not at all sure, thought Henry, that I believe in that God of the Bible, the one who chatted with Elijah. But whatever God is, I'm pretty sure I know it better out here in the quiet than I would through any ranting sermon. Maybe God is speaking to me in the small voice of the jumping fish in the rustling leaves, the still pond and the stars beginning to peek through the trees. Maybe I hear God when my heart is still and I can listen with my smallest ear. Maybe. And his thoughts drifted off through the small breeze that came and ruffled his hair and rippled across the quiet lake. Intention. It seems that the Transcendentalists were fascinated with this notion. In fact, as I read Walden, I can feel Thoreau grasping for it. He says, why should we be in such desperate haste to succeed and in such desperate enterprises? If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears, however measured or far away. Let them step to the music they hear. Let us uncover and uphold our truest intention. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't point out the irony of privilege in this entire foray. In a Unitarian tradition still alive and well, Thoreau wrote about the virtues of equality, simplicity, and respect for the natural world. Those words, however, come from us from the wilderness of his friend's backyard. Thoreau was white, male, which meant he could be Harvard educated. He tutored Emerson's children and ran in well-heeled literary circles. I submit that there is more than a hint of privilege in Thoreau's minimalism, and in my own. When Thoreau was arrested for refusing to pay a tax bill, it's rumored that his aunt paid it for him. The austere conditions of his cabin were allegedly made more palatable by regular visits from his mother and sisters to bring cookies. Likewise, though I live at the federal poverty line, I do so because of a choice I've made to enter seminary. It's important to note that if I weren't white, male, cisgendered, and in a dozen other categories, I wouldn't have that same choice. That, my friends, is a luxury that I have. I'm still learning how to work with it. And Thoreau did as well. Nonetheless, his intention was to, as he put it, live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. So privilege and awe, there we have it. Though it's been said that he was simply vacationing in his friend's backyard, the fact remains that he made that choice. Rumi says to us, this is now. Now is. Don't postpone until then. Spend the spark of iron on stone. Sit at the head of the table. Dip your spoon in the bowl. Seat yourself next to your joy. And have your awakened soul pour the wine. Branches in the spring wind, easy dance of jasmine and cypress. Cloth of green robes has been cut in pure absence. You are the tailor, settled among his shop goods, quietly sewing. Friends, what kind of robes are we sewing for ourselves and for the world? Patricia St. Ange taught me about the Haudenosaunee principle. Haudenosaunee is the name, the indigenous name for what is commonly known as the Iroquois nation. Haudenosaunee is their name, so I use it. The Haudenosaunee principle that any decision we make, we ought to consult the unborn people of 7 generations from now. With our lifestyles and the choices we make, in Rumi's words, what kind of robes are we quietly sewing? The gift of nothing. Is it really about nothing? Or is it about stripping away that which does not serve us so that we might uncover that thing that does? I don't want you to actually do this, but if we were to all pull out wallets right now and make a pile of credit cards from those wallets, I wonder what would be the collective spending power represented there. Think about that for a moment. Now, going a step further, if we were to look at the banks on the backs of those credit cards, what names would be there? Citigroup, ING, Wells Fargo, Barclays, JP Morgan Chase. Every one of those banks are providing financing for the Dakota Access Pipeline project. It runs through sacred Standing Rock Sioux land. It may yet allow an oil pipeline to be drilled underneath the Missouri River. Now, it's important to note that these banks are not inherently evil. They also finance clean energy, historic preservation, and small business. They're simply responding to the market we are all a part of. They're involved in their own relay race. The stock of their shareholders is held in mutual funds and our retirement accounts and pensions. The owners of those accounts demand good returns, right? Folks, we live in and we benefit from a system that is flawed. I couldn't resist bringing the words of one more Unitarian, Theodore Parker, who said, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I can calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience, but from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice." The choices we make have a direct bearing on that arc of the moral universe. We have the ability to influence it. Our seventh principle says that we have the obligation to pull upon that arc with all our being. I know what my words say, but with my choices, what kind of robes am I quietly knitting for the seventh generation to come? The gift of nothing. It only lights the beginning of the path for us. By opting out of a hectic, busy, consumer-driven lifestyle and opting into one with more intention, we might discern where to take that next step. Will you join me? I challenge all of us, myself included, to take Patrick McDonald's story to heart. As we enter into this time of deepening stillness and Gaia, our Earth Mother, rests quietly here, may we take the time to do the same. May we rise up in rebellion against mindless busyness and consumerism by deepening into stillness and sacred community. May we make mindful choices about how and on what we spend our money. Can this church help bend the arc of the moral universe more than Walmart or Amazon? Is the key to my happiness more or less likely to be found in that relay race or here in community with you? Or at home reading The Gift of Nothing to my daughter? By the way, lest I be mistaken for some unassailable sage of minimalism, I was too distracted to get The Gift of Nothing from the library. I bought it on Amazon and downloaded it to my Kindle. To the seventh generation, I say that I am sorry. I missed the mark and I'll try again. This time I'll pull on the other side of the moral arc. The gift of nothing. It contains the key to the gift of everything we seek. To each of you, I offer humble thanks for showing up, for caring, and for doing good work. I also offer a gentle admonition in the spirit of the Haudenosaunee elders. Good people, I love you, and you can do better. We can do better. For the sake of the unborn seventh generation, we must. Now where shall we begin? Amen. Ashe. And blessed be